Okay, guys, I am super excited to welcome our next guest to Let's Get Freaky. We have got Amanda from One Nothing Podcast with us tonight. How are you, Amanda?
Hi, I'm doing good. I'm really good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm excited to have you on the show.
I'm
I've been
excited to be on.
I've been listening to your show. It's awesome. You get into
Thanks.
some heavy subjects, but
Yeah, we
it's
sure do.
do you want to tell us a little bit about your show and what got you into doing the show?
Yeah. So One Nothing Podcast just basically explores the crazy different ways that people die. We usually rotate through from freak accidents to, murders and then animal attacks. We do pretty heavily. For some reason, I have a really big, like, morbid curiosity about animal attacks. So I love a good, like, bear attack or anything. I shouldn't say I love that. Sounds bad, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
It's
that's
very
cool.
interesting to me. And I just got into it really. What was funny is until a month before I started my podcast, I had never listened to a single episode of a podcast anywhere. And I had just happened to start listening on Apple Podcasts because I used to drive an hour to work and back. So I started listening on my drive and I found a couple shows that I really liked and I went through their library like nothing. And then I was like craving more. I couldn't find any podcasts that like filled that hole of like wanting these specific stories. So I just decided I was talking to my buddy at work one time and I'm like, maybe I should do a podcast. And she's like, you should. And that just kind of blossomed, like a little seed in my brain for a while. And One Nothing was
Yeah.
born.
That's awesome. That's what's so cool about a podcast. It's your baby, so you can talk about whatever you want to talk about. You can talk about these amazing subjects that you might not get anywhere else. That's really cool.
Yeah, I do enjoy it. It's definitely like, have you ever heard a case that you're like, I really wish a podcast would do an episode about that? Like, I really love just airing stuff that nobody's ever heard anything about before or going back sometimes to like the early, the 20s and the 30s and the 60s and sometimes as recent as a couple months ago. It's exciting to find all these different stories and to bring them back for a moment and kind of talk about their life and what they were like when they were alive. So
Yeah, it's fascinating because you really do your research on all the cases that you do. So you're getting
yeah.
straight facts.
That's probably my one like strong asset to podcasting. I'm not very great with the editing side or with the recording side, but the research part, I've always been really good at digging up some stuff. I dig up the tea for sure.
Yeah, that's the main thing is getting the main facts out, and yeah, it's awesome stuff what you do because it's interesting like with the murder stuff. I mean, obviously most of us are not murderers, hopefully. But most of us find it so fascinating, like, and getting into the minds of some of these people, like, it's really interesting.
Yeah, I know. I totally agree. I really like just wondering where someone's mind was at, and especially when there's no like warnings. Like a lot of the cases we cover, like, really tragic unanticipated murders that you never really saw coming, people that hadn't murdered anyone before. So it's just really bizarre to get in that mindset of what makes someone go from knowing right from wrong to that mind being blurred. And it's always, drugs or mental disease or whatever the case. But it's just interesting to put yourself into that mindset and wonder how that brain works in that situation.
Yeah, yeah, it's mad. Do you think some people they're just it's nothing to do with how they've been brought up. It's nothing to. It's just in them to be like that.
Yeah, from what I found, I mean, we do have our share of cases that have really tragic upbringings, but there's also cases that had picture perfect houses and lovely families, and nothing was, awry, as they say. Um, but yeah, it's just the variety and kind of getting the similar parts in common, and then also the fact that there's just inherently parts about death that are funny, and I think it's a society we shy away from that a lot.
Yeah,
And I really strive to bring a place where it's okay to kind of chuckle at some of the funny parts, and it's not like frowned upon to just feel normal feelings. Just because we tiptoe around death doesn't mean we can't laugh at the parts that are funny.
yeah. That's what I like about your show is you do have a lot of fun with it as well, and you're talking about these heavy subjects. But I think you need that, and I think that's why it works so well.
Yeah, I like to, like I say, bring them down and then back up. So I usually start on a good note, go down to the heavy stuff, and then come back
Yeah,
up with the happy stuff at the end again. So it's a roller coaster of emotions every time for sure.
yeah. But I like it how you warn us as well. You're like, this is going to get dark. Stay with
I feel
us
like
if you
a
want.
lot of people say that that's stupid to do, which I get because I marked explicit all over the place because I have a talk like a sailor if you didn't notice. But yeah, I just somehow still I feel like it's important to put those trigger warnings because some people like they can handle cases about everything except for, sexual abuse, or they can handle cases with everything except for a husband murdering his wife or a child or whatever the case may be. So I always think it's important, since I do so much, to kind of hide what my episode's about until I tell it, to let them know like, hey, there's going to be some stuff about kids in this episode or whatever the case.
Yeah, yeah. I recently watched the Netflix. Oh, what's his name? Jeffrey.
Dahmer.
Yeah.
That was a good one. That
Oh
was a really
man,
good, the way they recreated that was dead on.
I was just watching it thinking, I can't believe that this is real. Like this,
Yeah,
it's crazy, man.
really disturbing. There's a show that, oh gosh, I wish I could remember what it's called. It has Ryan Reynolds in it, and it's like he lives alone with a dog and a cat, and they're talking to him the whole time, and like the cat's telling him to kill people and stuff like that.
Oh
And,
wow.
and then at the end, there's this really big twist where, that is obviously impossible that cats and dogs can talk to him. So it's just definitely you need to watch that. It's a good
Oh, I
watch.
need to check that out for
Yeah.
sure.
I don't know what it's called, but someone will know. It's on Netflix.
Have you hit on any paranormal subjects yet on the podcast?
We haven't yet, but I do a collaboration with a couple other podcasts called the Paranormal Project. And so I usually conserve all of the spooky specter stuff for that. Just because I don't see that so much of our audience specifically is as much interested in that as like the true crime portion. But I love spooky paranormal stuff, and I love to get in that with the Paranormal Project and talk about some stuff that we don't talk about on One Nothing.
Well, I definitely want to get into the paranormal side of you as well.
Oh yeah, there's a lot to unveil there.
Yes. Can I ask what your freakiest episode's been so far? What episode sort of made you? I know they're all pretty heavy
Hmm.
stuff, but is there any that stand out for you at the moment that you're like, wow, that was? Well, I needed to
As
sit
of
down after that one.
now, yeah, I mean, they're all pretty heinous, but as of now, I think just my episode 10, every 10 episodes, we hold a special called One Something, and it features a survivor who survived something that would have killed any ordinary person. And so for our first One Something special for episode 10, we talked to Jeremy Evans, and he was a man who was mauled by a grizzly bear in Canada about 3 different times, and it like ripped most of his face off. And then he had to crawl like 12 miles back to his car and then somehow drive these really perilous roads on these cliffs to get help. I mean, just an incredible story of survival. And to sit down and hear him tell it the way that it happened, and to see the way he would react. I mean, he obviously still very much affected by it, but he's navigated like the hard stuff. But you can tell sometimes he takes, a gulp, and it was just crazy to hear that and to know that that guy's like been through that. Like he got chewed on by a bear, and he's sitting here
Wow.
talking to me about it. It was just incredible. So that's
Yeah.
probably my favorite so far. And then for our episode 20, which is coming up, we've lined up our next survivor, and it's another animal attack, not a bear, but it's going to be an exciting one for sure. So
Oh, we'll be checking that out for sure.
yeah.
Man, being attacked by a bear. That. Do you know what sort of bear? What sort of bear it was?
It was a grizzly bear, and she had cubs. So she was defending her cubs, and she came at
Oh,
him once, left, came back at him again, and then he climbed a tree, and she ripped him out of the tree, chewed on him and mauled him in the face, left, came back, chewed on him some more, and then finally left. And then it took him like 8 or 9 hours to get to help because he was so far out into the back country of Alberta. It was an incredible story,
wow.
and he couldn't walk, so he had to crawl, and he was like falling down these ravines and these embankments, and just incredible that anybody could
Wow.
survive that.
Everyone needs to check that out for sure. Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah. Wow. Ooh.
It's deep. Oh, and he took a
Yeah.
selfie too after he was mauled, so I have that, and it's like it's very gruesome, but he stood up and took a selfie after getting mauled by a bear, which is just about the coolest thing
Yeah, he sounds like a
anyone's ever
legend.
done. Yeah,
Hang
he
on, I just gotta get a
definitely
quick selfie. Wow.
is.
That's dedication, man.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah,
So
super cool guy.
what part of the US are you in right now?
I'm in Florida, Sunshine,
Okay,
Florida. Yeah,
nice, cool,
Southwest. So
cool stuff.
yeah, where the
Oh,
heat and the lizards are.
yeah, you got the crocodiles and the
I
alligators and the,
love it.
yeah.
My own little Australia down here.
My kids, my daughters come up to me the other day and they asked me if we could move to Florida.
Really?
I said maybe.
It's nice. It has its ups and downs. It's definitely way too congested right now because everybody's here, like everybody since COVID. We're like
Yeah,
1,000 people a day move to Florida. It's just
yeah,
incredible the numbers. And my city doesn't have the infrastructure for this number of people. So it's put a strain on traffic and the wear and tear on the roads. And it's takes you like 30 minutes to get a couple miles down the road. So it has its negatives, but I'm
yeah,
30 minutes from some of the prettiest beaches that you can get. So it's worth
yeah.
it.
Beautiful place. We said we wasn't going to get into the conspiracy, but a lot of people have moved there because they're happy with the way it's being run.
I'm not happy with the way it's being run.
Oh,
I'm one of
really?
those, yeah, it's not set up for like an average American. It's set up for people who have sold their business and their houses up north and who have millions of dollars, or people who are
Okay.
investors from out of the country, more so now because last year we had a devastating hurricane hit this area, and every single property that's going up for sale, investors are buying for cheap and then they're flipping them and renting them out for. So it's impossible. The
Yeah,
housing market is ridiculous. You can't find a house down there. You can't find an apartment down here for under 2,500 a month. Like it's incredibly, ridiculously expensive. So, but it's paradise. Everybody wants to live in paradise, so it makes
yeah.
sense. But it's
Oh
it's
man,
tough.
maybe I won't move there just yet.
Yeah.
But
Maybe like, yeah, the more inland, the cheaper it is. It's the closer you are to the ocean, the more expensive everything gets.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I want to get into your paranormal experiences.
Yes.
Let's
Oh,
get into it. Where does it start for you with the paranormal?
so I mean, I've had lots of weird little things throughout my life, but the only thing that really makes me, I'm a hard skeptic by nature in just about any avenue. Like I'm really hard to believe in things like Nessie and Sasquatch and stuff like that. If I see it, I'm a believer.
Yeah,
And growing up, my grandparents on my father's side, they had this house and they had moved. They were from Blackshire, England, and they had moved to Canada. And sweet as pie, they had their accents and everything, like just so wholesome. Like growing up and hearing, like I don't know, it's just a thing. Accents are really wholesome for me because of that. Because it was like Saturday mornings and they'd be making breakfast and you'd hear them talking and singing and stuff. But so they bought this house and it was their dream house and everything. They moved to Canada for. It had a beautiful white picket fence. It had a pool, a little bit of a yard. I mean, just everything that they wanted. And so I don't know anything about that house before they got it. I don't know how old it was or who owned it or what happened there, if anything, but there was something in that house. And any person that came to that house felt it and like saw it or felt it to some degree. And that was really my first experience. And I was a kid, so things happened before I was even, cognizant enough to know what was going on. But I just remember as a kid growing up, and one of the things that would happen the most is my youngest sister, she's 3 years younger than me, and we would go, it was like a spare bedroom at the back of the hallway. So it's like if you were standing at the hallway, it was straight down at the back. And that's relevant for a reason we'll get to later. But so we would stay in that bedroom and it was just so weird about it. Like sometimes it would smell, it would have a weird odor like sour milk, but there was never anything in there and they could pull up everything and couldn't find it. The temperature fluctuated really wildly. It'd be freezing cold, boiling hot. The lights, they had a dimmer switch, which are those dials that when you turn, the lights get dimmer and brighter. They had one of those and it was fine through the day, but at night if you were trying to sleep it would go all the way to super bright and then all the way off, all the way to super bright, all the way off. It would do that like just repeatedly for probably 20-30 minutes and then stop. So as kids we weren't really scared at all because it wasn't scary. It was just weird lights and stuff to us, but my grandparents were they lived there, so they had a lot more stuff that they were dealing with. And as I got older, my mom and family members have shared stories and stuff like, they smoked cigarettes and their cigarettes would go up and like vanish out of thin air. They'd set them somewhere, they would vanish. My grandmother's wedding ring, one morning she woke up and her wedding ring was gone, which she had never taken off for the whole 60 years they were married.
Wow.
And yeah, so her wedding ring was gone and it was like months, she tore apart the house. It was just the grandkids came over on weekends and stuff, but it was just them two. They didn't have any pets at this time. So there's really nowhere for it to go. So she does laundry, checks the bed, a couple months go by. They just assume it fell off while she was walking around or something. So they're talking about getting a new ring. And then they had a basement in this house. And for whatever reason, this one random day, like 3 months after her ring went missing, it just so happened to be sitting at the very top of the basement stairs, just like in a main traffic area. And it didn't make any sense, but it was like leading down to the basement stairs. And so that was stuff that they kept from us as kids that I learned from family members and stories, because everybody has experiences that went in that house, like my grandmother, my mother, everybody. And that's why I believe it so much, is because I just know, like, I've seen it and then I've heard it. And like, my mom doesn't lie about shit. My grandmother does not bullshit. She's a stern, honest old woman, and she will tell you straight up there's some stuff going on in that house.
Yeah.
But just stuff like that would happen. And my grandparents were very discomforted about it. They didn't like it when we would joke, because eventually we understood that what was going on was kind of spooky, and we would joke and call it the ghost. And so whenever something happened, we go tell our grandparents the ghost did something. They would get really upset and like scold us and be like, don't say that. There's no ghost in here, and trying to kind of shut it down, but they were obviously spooked. You could just tell. So, stuff would go missing, weird smells all the time, but it was always that back end of the hallway in the basement. And in the basement, they had a bar inside, and then a fireplace, a little den with a TV area. And then there was like a second room. I'm not really sure what the purpose of the room was. It was like just a little den, maybe, but it was empty. They just had storage, like Christmas stuff or whatever in there. And then off of that was a little squalid bedroom, which is where my biological father, who's not in my life anymore, he grew up in there. And for some reason, he painted everything in there jet black, like the walls, the ceiling, the floor, black furniture, really weird, very confusing. But he lived down there, and he's not a very small guy these days, let's just say. So I feel like, I don't know if that contributed to it, but I have my suspicions. So the basement was always a hot spot for stuff. Like the fireplace, like a real fireplace with wood that would burn, would like go out of nowhere. And my grandma would always be like, oh, it's just the chimney that a breeze came through and put it out. But like, yeah, but that would throw embers, you would think, if like a breeze big enough to put out a fire came through the chimney. And then like the bar glasses would fall when nobody was down there. They had like a peanut machine that you put quarters in and turn the thing and peanuts fall out. It would just randomly start pouring peanuts out of it when nobody was touching. Just like really weird stuff like that happening all the time. And it wasn't until I was, I don't know, I want to say maybe 8 or 9 years old. And my sister, she was old enough because she remembers this. Like I could call her up and she could tell you exactly that this happened. So this was the first time we saw whatever lived there. And my grandmother, my grandfather, my sister, and myself were in the little TV room. And the layout of this is, if you're standing at that hallway looking straight down to the spooky bedroom, the very first bedroom on the left is the TV room. The second bedroom on the left is their bedroom. And then across from the TV room is the door, like the entrance to the basement. And then beside that is the door to the bathroom. So if you're in the TV room, you can kind of see the bathroom door from where you're sitting through the hallway. So my grandfather's like, I have to go to the bathroom. He gets up or whatever, goes to the bathroom. He goes in the bathroom, flips the light on. We can hear him in there. And the couch is just sitting in a way that all three of us, my sister, my grandmother, and I can all see the hallway at the same kind of perspective. And we all watch as a tall shadow figure just strolls past. And I know she said it because she said Joe, which is my grandfather's name. And he was in the bathroom and he was like, what? From the bathroom. So we knew immediately that wasn't him. And so I knew that she saw it because she yelled out Joe. So she, of course, was like, no, there's nothing there, but we know she saw it. She jumped. It freaked us out. And that was when we were like really uncomfortable kind of staying there, because we knew now that there was something actually in there.
Yeah.
So and just stuff like that. Really creepy experiences, stuff that would go missing. My mom always she would be, the majority of the time, she was the one who would walk into that room and smell that odor, and then her and my aunt would spend like an hour ripping the whole room apart, thinking that the kids spilled something in there, and they'd rip the room apart, and it would randomly just stop smelling like it, and then later on it would just start smelling like it again, and it just didn't make any sense. So whatever it was, like, that bedroom was the hot spot, because it was walking down the hallway to the bedroom when we saw the apparition. The ring was on top of the stairs in that hallway. So like that hallway, that bedroom, and the basement were the hot spots. And so I happen to have a photo where that hallway is visible in the background. And
Yeah.
I don't know, I was a very, very young child when this photo was taken. So I don't know if it could have been something reflective, but it doesn't appear that way to me. Hold on, where the hell is this thing? Before I get telling it too much. I have a whole photo book, and I should have pulled it out beforehand.
That's cool. So how old was you when you caught this photo?
So I didn't take this photo. I just like inherited a bunch of photographs when my grandparents died, and I was going through them and I found it. And I made sure that they didn't have pets. We bought them their first dog because they used to breed boxers when we were little bitty babies. And then they didn't have boxers anymore. But we got them a Shih Tzu like later on after the road. But at the time this photo was taken, there was no pets in the home. I'm struggling now.
That's cool.
Bear with me.
Wow. So the shadow figure that you saw, how big was that?
It was tall. It was like really uncomfortably tall. It just made me feel like instantly like you just get like a shudder in your spine. Oh, here it is. So this is a photo of my grandfather and my uncle standing in the dining room, and you can see the hallway from where the photo was taken. So let's see if, hold on, let me shut off the blur on this thing real quick because it's not gonna do that. Okay. Try to get the light off of it here. So you kind of see the photo, right? They're standing in there.
Yeah.
So this is the hallway, and that, like, at the very end, that's the door. All the creepy shit happens.
Yeah.
Does that look like two eyes or some shit, or what?
Yeah, that looks like a little cat or something, I would say.
They didn't have any pets or anything, and it was just weird because, like, what would that be reflecting
Whoa.
off of? It's like off of the ground by a little bit.
Yeah. That
I don't
definitely
know what
looks
the
like
hell it was, but I
eyes
showed it to my
shine.
family, and they had no idea what the hell it was either. So
Interesting. And that's
yeah,
where a lot of the bad feeling was and the activity was as well.
a lot of the activity in that hallway and in that bedroom. So, and they moved out of it. Actually, the activity got so bad that they moved out. They left their dream home and they bought like a little condo, and then they both passed away within a couple years of that. Like, they was just really sad. They were devastated that, my grandma got really sick after leaving there. So I'm not saying that it was like connected, but it just,
Yeah.
that was their dream house, and for them to move out of it, it's pretty clear
Yeah, that was a big
that there
deal.
was a lot more going on than what they were telling us about.
Wow. So you think they were seeing a lot more and experiencing a lot more things?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've just heard like stories and stuff that they've recounted to family members too. And so I know stuff
Yeah.
happened when nobody was there and it was just them. And I imagine it was really scary. So
Yeah.
that's probably why they didn't like us talking about it when we're like, oh, the ghost did this. And they're like, stop it.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know any of those stories that they might have shared? Are you able to share them or?
Just the ones that I shared about like her ring.
Oh,
That
okay. Yeah.
happened
Yeah.
when it was just the two of them. And then the one
That's
time that her
really
cigarettes
strange.
went out. Yeah. One time she was like smoking a cigarette and she set it in the ashtray because like someone rang the doorbell, and she answered the door, and it was just somebody collecting a signature for something. And she like literally, it was like 2 seconds. She answered and then shut the door and went back, and her cigarette was gone, and she was the only one home. And she literally
Wow.
put it in the ashtray. And that's like with a cigarette, that's not something you misplace. If you're putting it
No.
down, you're putting it very
Yeah.
carefully in an ashtray so it doesn't
Yeah.
catch anything on fire. So there's no way she just set it somewhere mishapenly. Like, it's just a lot of weird stuff happened in that house.
Yeah, man. And with the ring, obviously, like to find it in that spot where you would see it, you'd see that, wouldn't you? So that's strange that
Yeah,
it's
and
just
when they
suddenly
like
turned up.
vacuumed there all the time, it was just in a
Yeah.
heavy traffic area. So someone would have stepped on it. It was just right in the hallway and on that path. So just
Yeah.
very bizarre.
Interesting. Well, I grew up in a haunted house, so I know that That
Really?
vibe, yeah. That when so you just feel it, you could just feel it. Obviously, things happen as well, but you get
Dang.
that feeling, which I still get when you go into a haunted place. You can feel it. I think
Yeah, I lived
interesting.
in one other house that like I don't know if it was haunted. The only thing would happen, you'd hear footsteps like all the time. But that was it. Like nothing really ever like escalated from there. It was just footsteps. But my friend who used to she stayed with me often, and so she was there a lot of the time with me, and we'd hear it all the time. And we'd like on a dozen different occasions, we would run upstairs and check because the upstairs was like an attic that was turned into a bedroom, and it was my bedroom. So we'd run up there, and there was never anybody up there. But one time we were telling her mom about it, and we were sitting in her house and in her kitchen, and we were like, yeah, there's like a ghost in the house. It keeps stomping upstairs. And she's like, that's ridiculous. Don't say stuff like that. So a couple weeks later, she had come to pick up my friend from my house, and she was in my kitchen, and we were all talking. And like it knew she was there, it went do, 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 do all the way down. And she's like, who the hell's upstairs? And I said, nobody. That's what we're telling you.
Wow.
So that was
Yeah,
always kind of cool,
that is
but
cool.
nothing culminated from that.
So you didn't get a bad vibe there or anything like that. You were just hearing.
Uh, yeah, I mean, like a weird vibe all the time, but like I was also like, I was a young woman living alone for the first time, so it was just a bad vibe in general because I was really easily startled about every little noise, so
Yeah.
every little thing. I was like, ah, I'm getting murdered.
If I heard someone walking around my house, like I've heard it where I am now actually before.
Oh God.
It's a weird thing to experience,
Mm.
especially if you're on your own. You know.
Yeah, I'm really fortunate that I have pets now, so I hear any creepy noise and I don't even check. I'm just like, that was a cat.
Yeah. That's
Like
it.
I don't have to even look.
That's why I've got my dog now. So yeah, you're
Yep.
right. Everything's the dog.
Yeah. Don't even look for where the dog is. Just assume
Yeah,
it's a
yeah, that's
dog.
him. That's him. Oh man.
Yeah.
So
Real
every time you
bad.
went round Janana, was it something that you experienced a lot there?
I mean, yeah, it was like every time we would stay there every weekend because my parents were divorced at that time. And so we had like, I almost call them conjugal visits. That's not what they are. What the hell are they called? Like the weekend visits. I don't know what those are called, but we would
Yeah,
stay the weekend and then he would take us to his parents, which was our grandparents, and then we'd stay the night there. And it was like every weekend. So it was just the same, like we'd experience it every time we were there, but it was the same stuff. It was the temperature and the lights going crazy, usually the peanut thing going crazy, the fireplace going out. Like it was very particular
yeah,
about like it had a rhythm with the things that it did. And very rarely did it introduce new things. But that apparition, that was the first and only time that I saw it. And it was like it was a man for sure. But it was just a really tall, like not really not slender like creepy slender, but just like a kind of like a slim fit,
yeah,
like a
yeah,
slimmer tall guy. um I don't want to say slender because that brings Slender Man, and I definitely don't want to
yeah. That's
picture I saw
freaky, man.
Slender Man in the hallway. Fuck no.
We don't need that.
Yeah, no. I need to
So
sleep tonight.
yeah. So was that just a shadow figure? Like it was dark, not see
Oh
through.
yeah, you could not see any details. Like it was not transparent at all. Like if you wouldn't know any better, it would look like somebody just dressed up in a big cloaky thing and like walked through. It looked so realistic. And that's why my grandma and like we saw it because I saw my sister and I looked at the same time. And then when my grandma was like, Joe, I was like, oh yeah, she saw that for sure. Because why else would she have said that?
Yeah,
And
for
he's like, yes,
sure.
honey, in the bathroom, completely oblivious to what's going on.
Wow. I find it so interesting because I would say 9 out of 10 people that I speak to have seen a shadow figure.
Really?
Yeah, this is so common. I've seen it. Nearly everyone I talk to have seen it. I just find it fascinating.
Yeah, recently I went on this really bizarre because I was actually talking to a friend at work a couple months ago about this house briefly, and she's like, "Do you know where it is?" And I'm like, "Oh God, I don't remember." But luckily, they lived in like a super, super teeny little city that's the size of like a dot. So I asked my mom if she remembered the street, and she did. And then I went on Google Maps and I went house by house, and I went all the way down the street, and I found the house. So I'm really contemplating sending a letter to
Yeah.
whoever lives there and just being like, do you experience anything? Because someone has to live there now. The weird thing though is when I looked it up, I don't know how old the Google Maps picture is, but it looks identical. Like nothing has changed about it at all, which is weird for
Yeah.
20 years ago. You'd think that they would have been updated or renovated, but nothing has changed.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's interesting. I don't know if maybe someone doesn't live there, or if whoever does live there, something doesn't like renovations. I don't know.
Just
I can only
kept it as it
speculate.
is. Yeah. I always think that I'd like to go back to my old house and just talk to the people that live there. Now, obviously, I don't know who lives there anymore, but just just find out if they experience anything, or
Yeah.
they probably wouldn't like it if they don't, and you're turning up saying, "Yeah,
Yeah,
do you
I'd send
see
a
the
letter. I
man?"
wouldn't pull up, but I would send a nice letter, like, please write back if you have spooky stuff happening.
Yeah.
And with my luck, it'll
Interesting.
be some person, like nothing happens, and just someone thinks I'm just some crazy person, like telling them their house is haunted. They're like, okay.
So you said you're a bit of a skeptic yourself.
Yes, I'm a hard skeptic. Like I'm a very much I have to see it or know it or like do my own research to believe it. And so a lot of those, and I know everyone's freaking out because something about September 23rd was like a day we were all
Yeah.
supposed to die. And I'm like,
Yeah, what
by
happened
the
with that, man?
time for every time we were supposed to die, I'd be rich
Yeah,
enough that I would enjoy living. So like, I
yeah.
wouldn't need to get excited for doomsdays, but no, they're
That's the
just I
thing.
don't.
There's so many doomsdays now. When the actual doomsday does come, we're not going to believe it. We'll just be like, yeah, it's that
The
day
only one I
again.
cared about was the Mayan calendar just because it was like
Yeah.
cool, but then that was a bust. So
Oh,
like,
so
we're shit, we're still here. Gotta go to work.
yeah. So you're a skeptic, but would you say that you believe obviously in the paranormal and that there's
Oh
things
yeah,
going on around
absolutely.
us?
I don't know what they are. I don't know if it's a ghost or a spirit or a apparition of some kind, and I have no idea what to make of it. But I just know that there's something that didn't exist in our world as we know it that was in that house that was doing shit all the time. I just know that. Like, so I believe it because I know it. And same thing with like UFOs. I've seen UFOs, so I know that they exist. So I don't
Oh
have to be proven stuff like that. But like, for you to look me in my face right now and be like, Sasquatch is real, I'm gonna be like,
no, don't say that.
show me a video that's not pixelated to hell.
Yeah. Oh, Patty film? No,
What?
the Patterson Gimlin film. Do you not like? What do you think of that one?
Is that the one of like he like walks and does like 3 strolls into the trees?
Yeah.
Is that yeah, that's like the most famous one. It's still grainy is the thing. It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
we can take a fucking shot of a planet 700 million light years away, but we can't get a shot of a guy that's
Yeah.
like 20 feet in front of us. I would just like, you know, if you're sending me tickets with my license plate on them for blowing through like school zones, you better have your camera up and ready when the Sasquatch is walking around. I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
for sure.
It's just a hard skeptic.
Yeah, it's cool. There's nothing wrong with it. I think that's a good way to be. I need to be a little bit more skeptical. Everything's paranormal to me.
The only thing that gets me is I love a good conspiracy theory, and it's just because
Yes.
I'm so distrusting that our government is out to do us right, that
Mm.
anything that comes along that sounds like something that they would do that isn't in our best interest, I'm like, yeah, I believe that because 100%, like I just believe anything now because there's no
Yeah,
line anymore to
I
what the
know.
hell
The
they'll
world's gone
do. So
crazy. The world has
yeah,
gone crazy for sure. I don't
but I
trust the
like a good
news.
conspiracy.
Yeah.
No, no, I don't.
I don't watch the news. I just get angry when I watch the news, so I just don't
No.
watch it anymore.
Ugh. I don't get angry. I just get like, I don't know. I just think of it of what they're actually doing. Like it's like, okay, so you're in a room somewhere with like 80 cameras and like a teleprompter, and there's people like staring at you, and you're like in front of a green screen trying to line up your finger with what's happening. So like I just see it for like ridiculous, like how they're recording it. I don't see it as like a news broadcast. Like it just seems silly to me. It's just they're
Yeah,
like actors trying to be serious.
yeah, yeah, for
So they
sure.
fumble up a word and they're not even allowed to laugh about it. I'm like, well, come on.
Yeah, yeah, I wouldn't be able to do
No,
that.
absolutely not. I would like stop the show. You gotta laugh about this.
So you said you've seen UFOs. I want to get into that with
Yeah,
you. Can we get
I
into that?
sure
What
have.
happened there?
Absolutely, yeah. I've seen them on a couple occasions. The first time I was very, very young, is my mother and my father were still together, and we were, I don't know where the hell we were. We were in Canada somewhere, and we had stopped and pulled over, and there was like a little bridge and then kind of a good drop to the water. I remember thinking that if I fell in, I wouldn't be able to just climb back out. So it's probably like 10 feet to the lake or pond, whatever it was, body of water. And we had pulled over because my biological dad had seen them in the sky. And so we watched them, and there was 7 of them, and they were just like in synchronicity. And this would have been in mid 90s. So, I mean, we did technology, but not like we do now with drones and whatnot. But they
Yeah.
just like all did the same thing. They would go the same direction and like follow each other, like just a trail of 7. And we watched them for a long time. And then one at a time they went out. And I was like, oh yeah, that was cool. And my biological father was like a real big UFO. He's like, those are UFOs. Oh my God. So that was my first as a kid. I was like, oh, that was cool. And then a little bit after that, my stepfather and I saw one. We were in the driveway of their house. And I saw it and I asked him if it was a satellite, and there was no way that it was a satellite because it literally went like from one part of the sky, it like shot like faster than you can comprehend to a whole nother part of the sky. So there was no way that that's a satellite. And then I don't know why, you know me, I have to have evidence, I have to have evidence to believe it. So I have evidence of my UFO. So I was driving to work one day. Let me see where I can driving to work one day, and I lived in Ohio, and I was on like I-76 to North Ridgeville, and I just happened to kind of look outside my window, and I see a thing, and it's like hovering out in the sky. At first, through my driver's window, I see it. And so I was looking at it and I was like, that looks like a saucer, like hard, legitimately looks like, come on, photo open, looks like a saucer. And so I'm watching it, and then it like zips around in front of me real quick. And I'm like, well, it's definitely not an airplane because of how fast it moved. And then before I even could tell where it was, I was like, I lost it. I'm like, oh my God, where did it go? And then I look out my passenger side, and it's my passenger, like out my passenger. I didn't even see it get over there. It was so fast. So I was driving doing 70 miles an hour down the highway. So it's not. My phone screen's cracked too. So I'm going to send it to you after this. So like in an Instagram
Awesome.
message, because my phone screen is cracked. So I don't know that you're going to be able to even make it out. Hold on. Let's see if I can focus. Focus. Come on, work with me. It's
Can't see it. So what was it? A silver disc?
too bright. Let me try that. I tried to turn down the brightness. Maybe that'll. Oh, okay. I'm gonna send it to you on Instagram.
Oh, thank you.
So you can see it.
So was it a silver disc? Was that?
Oh no, it's 100%. Like it's like a typical UFO craft. It's a saucer. You can see it clear as day.
Wow.
Like, and I took a video of it on Snapchat because I was driving, going like 80 miles an hour down with one hand, trying to catch it and the other. And I was swinging around so much because it was moving so fast. So what I did was I took a video, and then when I stopped and was able to, I like went frame by frame, and I found where like a frame where I had it clear, and I screenshotted that. So that's what I have.
That's cool. How big would you say that was?
Oh God, I don't even know what to compare it to. Like, it wasn't as big as an airplane, but it was definitely big enough to like, if you were like, you could climb on board and get in it.
Wow.
For sure.
That's cool. That's a cool experience.
It was very cool. I want to send it to you so you can see it. Because once you see it, you're gonna be like, oh no, 100%. It is a saucer.
Is that coming now?
Yeah, I'm attaching it now. There we go.
Here we go. Oh wow. Yeah, that's quite low down as well, isn't it?
And I can't think of anything else that would be. That is, to me, clear as day. That's a saucer.
Yeah. And that was just moving around the sky.
Quick as shit.
Wow.
Yeah. Zipped from my driver's side in front of me, and then zipped in front of me to my passenger side. So like I thought it disappeared. I was looking for it out the front still. I was like, where did it go? And then I just looked beside me, and it was out my passenger window. So I got to think, as high as it was, to travel that distance from in front to way, I mean, that takes some oomph.
Yeah. And fair play to you. If you're going 80 miles an hour and you've got that, fair play.
Yeah.
That is skill.
It was probably more than 80. I have a lead foot, but but I got my photo.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Have you got any other UFO experiences or?
No, just those. Not really any. I mean, I've educated. Like, I looked a lot into the Arecibo satellite and the message that they beamed out in Morse code, and then the message that appeared less than 12 hours later in a protected security fenced in area in way of a crop circle that literally answers what they beamed out in Morse code. So stuff like that is like beyond comprehension. Do you know anything about that?
Can you tell us more about that? Because I'm not
I
sure.
absolutely can. Yeah. So it's the search for extraterrestrial life. It's or extraterrestrial intelligence. It's a group called SETI, and they do all this crap with like searching our galaxies for any signs of life, intelligent or otherwise. So they did this thing where they basically beamed out this map in Morse code, and this was like back in, I don't know, maybe 50, 20 or 25 years ago, maybe longer than that. I have the picture in a book. I always, have evidence. But they beamed it out, and basically it was just a breakdown of like Earth. It was like a message that detailed that there's like 9 planets in the solar system, 1 sun. Our main molecules are like carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, blah 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 blah. It had like a picture of a DNA strand, like a molecule of our DNA. It had a picture of that. It had like Earth elevated in the planets, so it had like the planets in a line, and Earth was moved up one to simulate that, like that's where we are. And then it had the number of people that were on the Earth at that time, like a population, and then a little graphic of like a satellite, which is what it was beamed off of. So basically it painted a whole picture of like where we are, how many of us are here, what our life looks like, and this is what we use to send you this message. And they beam it out into nothingness. They just pick a spot in the cosmos and they're like, bloop, put it out there. And so in Morse code, this message fires out there. And then like the next morning, it was like 11 hours after they sent this message out, there's like a area attached to the Arecibo satellite at SETI, and it's literally fenced in with like probably electrified wire and all kinds of stuff, and it supposedly has security cameras. Now they said the cameras weren't working, so I don't know how legitimate that is because I've never found footage. But the very next day there was a crop circle right outside of the SETI, and it was answering everything, like answered with their own. So it had they had another molecule, or like a life, like how we have hydrogen and oxygen and stuff. They had another one, and it was, oh gosh, something that we use in like computers and machinery a lot. And that was like a life element for them. And then it detailed that they have 3 suns in their solar system, and that there's like 500 billion people on their planet, and they occupy like 2 different planets, and just like a whole bunch of really cool information. A picture of their molecule, their height. There was like a human picture with the height on there. They sent back a little humanoid but was smaller, so like answered in the same format, exactly the same as what we have. It's really incredible.
Wow.
And for it to happen as detailed and as large as it was, for that to happen in 11 hours undetected in a secured area of that, is just mind-blowing. So that is like, there's still that 1% of me that's like, it's possible that could have been orchestrated in some way, but they didn't really, it's out there to find, but they didn't go anywhere with that knowledge. It's not like it was breaking news all over the news. So what gain would they have had, from a ploy like that? It just didn't. I just think the only rational answer is that we got an answer to whatever we sent back out into space, which is really cool.
Yeah, that is cool. Did you say the security cameras went out on the facility?
That's what they said. They said that the area was like had security cameras, but that like they went to retrieve the footage and there was like nothing on there. It was all like distorted. But I don't know. I don't know how much I believe that they can affect our technology like that, because they're zipping all around here when we're driving and our cars work just fine. So I'm not really sure. I'm still iffy on that. And I've never seen video footage of like that area, but I have how I learned about it is I have this book that's like this thick, and it's every paranormal thing in the world it contains. And it's like everything from spontaneous human combustion to fairies and goblins and ghouls, and everything in between is like a cookbook for all things spooky. It's really cool.
Wow, I need that book, man.
Yeah. But it was in there. It was a chapter in there, and it had a picture of what they sent out and then a picture of the crop circle with the response. And then I looked it up from there, and SETI has a website, which is I think seti.org, if I'm not mistaken. And there's like a section where they have that same information. You can see it on their site too. And they like break down what everything means. Just incredible. Yeah. So I'm educated on stuff. But those are the only experiences that I've had with UFOs.
That is incredible. It's mad with crop circles, because I mean, there are videos out there where you see a flash and there's one appeared. I mean, I don't know if you can prove them to be 100% or what, I don't know, but I've seen videos
Yeah.
like that, and it's amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. And then the last few years really have me believing in like portals and other dimensions.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
I again would have to see when to believe it. But I just feel like the way everyone collectively feels like 2020 shifted everything. I feel like we like
Yes.
got kicked into a different dimension or something, like a gloomier one.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
feel
that's
like
why
that
all
for
that
sure.
Mandela effect shit.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, I've said this before on the show. I feel like times change a little bit. I feel like the day just goes so much quicker. I know we're all
So
busy
much
and stuff like
faster.
that, but it just feels like that a day just goes. It's just
So fast.
so it makes you think, have we slipped into another
It
time
makes
dimension?
sense. I mean, there's so many things that come up that like there's just no way that an entire population remembers something and then that was never the case. Like Berenstein Bears were the Bernstein Bears. I will die on that hill. They were not the
100%.
Bernstein motherfucking Bears. Sorry.
It's like the Luke, I am your father in Star Wars.
Yeah, they
I mean,
said
he
that is
said that for
exactly
sure,
how
didn't
it was said. 100%. Oh no,
he?
yeah, I'll die on that hill too. He said
Yeah,
Luke, and then he goes,
yeah.
and then he says, "I am
Bang
your
on.
father."
Yeah.
I do a really great Darth Vader breath.
And that was amazing. And what do they say he said? Like, what's the? Because that's what it's always been.
They say, I heard just recently someone talking about this, and I thought that they said like, oh gosh, I don't remember now what they said he said, but it's definitely nothing close to like Luke, I am your father. So like,
Yeah, I need to
it's a hundred
Google it.
percent.
I
Yeah,
need to
find out what
Google
that
what
is.
they are saying that he said, but we
But
know.
there's so much stuff like that. Like the freaking Britney Spears in the Toxic video.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah,
bitch had a pink plaid skirt on in that video,
yeah. Was
or
that the
I'm not.
hit me, baby, one more time song? Is it that one?
No, that was in Toxic where she was in the airplane and she was like, she was being like a stewardess and she was like that toxic
Yeah,
music video, and she was had a pink plaid skirt on at one point. But
yeah,
if you go back and watch the video now, it's not pink. But everybody remembers that that skirt was pink and plaid. Like I remember it. Everybody else does. There's just no way that everyone remembers that incorrectly.
yeah. And it's the
Millions of people collectively.
yeah, it's the same with the "Hit Me, Baby, One More Time" video as well. I know that's not the name of the song. I can't remember. I can't remember what the
I
song
think
was
it is
called.
called.
Is it called that?
I think it is. I don't know. That's the only part of the song I remember.
But I'm sure that the skirts was plaid.
100%. Maybe it was that Hit Me Baby. I don't know. I thought there was something with toxic.
But
It doesn't matter. But it
there's a
was
lot.
pink.
Yeah. There's a lot of Mandela effects that just I can't get my head around.
That are so weird too. Like I still that Bernstein Bears like that rubs me wrong. I'm like
Yeah.
I grew up to those.
Yeah.
Next you're gonna tell me that Goosebumps was like Goosebumpers or something.
Oh,
So I
don't.
kills.
I love Goosebumps. That
I
was
love Goosebumps. R.L. Stein was
oh
my homie. That's why I am the way I
yeah.
am now, I think. I have him to
Yeah.
thank.
Yeah,
If I
for
ever make it
sure.
big on the podcast, I'm gonna reach out to R.L. Stein and be like, you did this.
Yes.
You're why I tell people not to have their kids listen.
I have still somewhere. I have still got all my Goosebumps books. I don't know where. I know they're here somewhere because I know when I moved here, I've seen them. So I know I've got them somewhere.
I had
I need
all
to
of them
dig
as
them
a
out.
kid, every single one. And then I don't know, my mom probably got rid of them or threw them away or gave them to Goodwill or something. But I had every single
Nah.
book. What was your favorite Goosebumps book?
Oh, there were so many good ones. What was the camp? Was it Camp? I'm
Ooh.
thinking of the wrong name. Camp something. Do you know what I mean? When they go to
Oh
summer
gosh.
camp.
There was a
And
couple summer camp ones. Was the one with like the rats and stuff were in that
yeah, it might. I remember it was
something
a
to do with
yellow.
rats.
It was a yellow book with.
Um,
I can't remember the.
I
Can't
like
remember
the
what.
one where the guy like I forget what family member they were, but he's like a guy turned family members into plants. He had them like all wrapped up in vines in the
Yeah,
closet.
that was
I
so
was
weird.
so scared as a child. I was like, I don't want to be a plant.
Yeah,
Every
yeah,
time I ate a seed from then on, I was like,
yeah.
am I gonna turn into that?
And there was another one, the boy that lost his head or something. I know that's not what it's called, but do you know what I
Yes.
mean?
And then the boy with the shrunken head or something like that. And
Yeah.
then the
Oh, this.
photograph one where they would take a photo and it would show how people died in it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh man,
that guy was a
yeah,
genius.
it was quite scary stuff, really. Like
Yeah,
we
we
was
were like
kids.
5 reading that. Like, yeah, give me more.
That
Wonder why we're all
explains
fucked
so
up.
much. Yeah. And here we are.
Where's my money, Arlstein?
He's still going. I still follow him on X or whatever, and he's still pumping out books.
No kidding. I graduated from him to Stephen King. It was like the training wheels came off.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
when you graduate from Arlstein to Stephen King.
But even the TV series that they made was amazing as well. Like we read
Oh
all the
yeah.
books and then they made it into a TV series, and
I
that
know,
was
and they
awesome.
got it perfect every time. They always got all the details, and I was like satisfied.
Yeah, yeah. I've got all them as well on DVD.
Ugh.
I'm gonna watch them
Just
tomorrow.
coming home from school and having that
Yeah,
and the going through the house and the creepy music.
yeah, yeah. Do you remember as well? I know we've gone well off topic now, but do you remember there was another program? It was like Goosebumps, but they used to sit around a campfire and tell stories,
Are
scary
you afraid
stories.
of the dark?
That's it.
I used to
Yeah,
love that show.
that was awesome.
I loved
Yeah,
All Real Monsters. Are You Afraid of the Dark? Tales of the Crypt Keeper. I love all
yes.
those.
Oh
I was
man,
on the
they
TV
don't
like,
make it
yes,
anymore like they
scar
used to.
me,
Yeah,
traumatize me emotionally during my developmental stages.
they got us good. They got us good. They don't make them like that anymore.
No, I know everything is like a censor warning.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Look at me talk. A walking censor warning.
So, have you had any other paranormal experiences to share?
Um, just like weird ones and stuff. Like I'm pretty sure I witnessed a friend astral project once, which was kind of cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was cool. Well, it was my boyfriend at the time, and we got in this fight, and he left in a huff and went and stayed the night at a friend's house. And he did that a couple times before, but he would come home usually at some point in the middle of the night. So I was at my apartment. My sister and her friend came over, and we were watching movies. And we were just like smoking some weed, hanging out, watching these movies. And I fell asleep on the couch, and I woke up, and I remember like a movie was playing, which at the like it wasn't Netflix time, so you would have had to put another DVD in for another movie to play. So I like looked around to see who started a movie, and I saw my sister, and then I saw her friend passed out, and then I saw my boyfriend who was sitting on the couch. And I was like, I said something snarky. I was like, "Oh, you decided to come home, like bitch," or something like snarky. Probably didn't call him a bitch. And he didn't say anything to me. He just like kind of like he shit like looked at me at the corner of his eye and then didn't say anything. So I was like, whatever. He's obviously still got an attitude. So like die mad. So I went back to bed. Whatever, bitch. And then the next morning I woke up and he was gone. And I was like, oh, weird. I guess I made him more angry again, or he went back out, whatever. Like, and so a couple like hours later, and he came home, and I was like, where did you go? And he was like, oh, just my friend's house. And I was like, oh, like back there? He's like, what do you mean? And I was like, did you go back there? Like, because you came home last night. He's like, I didn't come home last night. And I was like, yeah, I woke up and you were on the couch. And he's like, no, I definitely stayed at home. He goes, but I did have a dream that I was at the house and we were all watching movies and stuff. And I was like, what movies were we watching? And tell me how this guy listed off 3 movies in order that we had watched that night.
What?
Yeah, like Red Fox movies too, not DVDs that we had like laying around. Like we had rented these movies. So like there's just no physical way he would have known that we had rented those movies and watched them that night. And it was just wild because he
Wow.
thought it was a dream to him. But it was 100% like it was not.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
It was kind
crazy.
of
What was
weird.
his reaction when you told him that? He
He
got
was weirded out, but he just was like, it's a weird coincidence, maybe. And I was like,
no, man.
if it was 1 movie, it was a weird coincidence. 2 stretching, but 3 in
Yeah,
order? No.
yeah. And the fact that you saw him as well.
Yeah,
That
and
is
I know I saw him because I like talked to him. So it's not like, I saw him and went back to sleep and can't be sure if I was awake. Like I spoke to him and then like had an assessment of his behavior because of his lack of response where I was like, "Oh, whatever, bitch, bye," and then went
yeah,
back to sleep. Like so it was a whole thing. I was like, I know I didn't dream that. It just was really weird.
yeah. You
It's
called him a
definitely weird.
bitch.
did.
Wow,
Did. He's
that's
probably
cool.
being a bitch.
That's mad though. So do you think he possibly um what do you think happened to him? Do you think he astral projected or
I feel like he did because that's the only thing, like, because I looked up stuff about like what that would have been, and I came upon like astral projection. I'm like, I don't know if you can do it without meaning to, but the fact that I saw him and he remembers everything as if he was there, but he wasn't. I'm like, it sounds like astral projection to be one place, but to appear. I don't know. I don't. Can
yeah?
people see you when you astral project? Like, I don't know. I never even looked that up.
No, I'm not sure. But it's interesting though. It's very interesting.
And then one time, so this is gonna get real judgy, but I was a kid. This same boyfriend, he used to do, I forget what drug. It wasn't like a hard drug. It wasn't like in there doing meth or anything like that. But he would take like a cough medicine that you would take over the counter, or like I think it was like a nasal spray, and he would like drink a little bit of it, and it would get him like he would see stuff sometimes, and so I would just try to keep him safe so he didn't like fucking jump out a window or something. So just be like, okay, just sit there and like do your thing and don't die, please. And so he one time was like sitting in a chair, and he had lit a cigarette and was sitting there, and like in his little drug trip or whatever, his chair started like moving down the stairs towards the front door. And then the door opened and his chair moved through it. And like it was all a hallucination. Like he was sitting in the chair in my living room in reality. But in this hallucination, he did this, and it got him all the way through the parking lot in this chair, and he dropped his cigarette, and then his chair sucked him all like super fast, sucked him back up into the apartment. And he came to, and he was like, "Where's my cigarette?" And we could not find it. I didn't even go outside to see if it was out there, but I know he had a cigarette, and we could not find it anywhere. Like it was gone. So I don't know what the hell happened there either. I think he just maybe he's good at like astral projection and doesn't know it.
Yeah.
Because I was the same guy that happened to that time. And that was really weird. But I was like, I saw him light that cigarette, and I know like something would be on fire. You'd see it on the floor. And that was
Yeah.
gone. And he's like, do you want to go outside and look for it? And I was like, no. Because if it's out there, I'm gonna be really freaked out. So we did not go
Wow.
out there to investigate.
Yeah, that
I'm
sounds
not
like he
with that
does
guy
have.
anymore. I make a lot better choices now.
Yeah. He was a bitch.
He was a
do,
bitch.
do you know
A
where
cough
he is?
medicine bitch.
Do you know where he is now?
I got no
Because
fucking clue.
I need
Oh
to
no,
find.
he's shacked up with kids now, which sounds, sorry for those who are shacked up with kids, but it sounds miserable. So I dodged that bullet.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, if you're listening, we're sorry.
I'm not.
Oh. So have you had any other paranormal experiences to share, or any other freaky
Oh yeah,
experiences?
just is that not enough?
Yeah. No, you've had some cool ones, man.
That's some cool ones. No, I'm just joking. But no, that's really it that I can think of. I'm sure there's probably little things here and there about the haunted house that I'm forgetting, but if I remember them, I'll let you know later. But that about is all of them.
Interesting. Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much for sharing your experiences. You've had some awesome experiences. You've got an
Appreciate
awesome
it.
podcast. Can you tell the listeners where they can find you and your podcast?
Yes, please find us. We're everywhere. Apple Podcasts I prefer because you can leave us ratings on there. No pressure, but leave us ratings.
Do it.
And then we're on all the other ones: Spotify, iHeartRadio, Alexa. I heard Google Podcasts is leaving, so don't maybe go there, but like find another spot. If you find a podcast hosting platform and we're not on it, let me know. How about that?
Yeah.
And I'll get on it.
It's an awesome show. Everyone needs to go and listen to it.
And it's
I'll
1-0 WON too. Sorry, just everybody try to like ONE. It's you won't find it. WON.
awesome. I
That's
will
my
share the links in the show description as
yay.
well, so people can find you. Amanda, thank you so much. I've loved having you on the show. You're
It
welcome
was so
back
fun.
anytime. Keep me posted if any other freaky stuff happens.
I
And thank you
will.
so much.
Thank you for having me. It was such a good time. I was so excited to get on this. I actually have been like dying to come on your show since you had David on your show like months ago. So
Yeah.
when you were like, "Do you want to come on?" I was like, "Please."
Shout out to David as well. He's absolutely awesome.
Yes, the bestie.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
You guys are great. Thank you so much. And
Thank
I'll
you.
speak to you soon.
All right. Well, thank you. It was such a fun time.
Thank you.